Okay, this week's episode of the Raw Recap is brought to you by SubwayKids.com and Green Lantern the movie, or the DC Comics Warner Brothers conglomeration of Green Lantern the movie. So this week we got a 3-hour Raw with the Slammys, and I think we got like 5 matches. Yeah, so I might as well get right off. The opening Slammy was for the "Tell Me I Did Not Just See That" moment, which had Booker T and Hornswoggle. Glad that Hornswoggle got his voice back after he won a battle royal and Santa Claus gave him his voice. And the weird thing ends up being is they show all these ones, and whenever I see CM Punk, I'm like, man, CM Punk should have won that. So many moments that CM Punk was in were just ridiculously better. And of course ends up being JR and his dance number, which then leads to a wrap-off between JR and Cole. And then the Spinneroonies by Booker T and JR. And then Mick Foley and the $1 Million Man come down for the "Holy Dude" moment of the year, and of course it's the ring collapsing at Vengeance. So Show comes out and Show wins. And then Show takes on Wade Barrett in like a 3-minute long match, if that, including intros. Then the Divalicious moment of the year, or most Divalicious. It's really hard to tell. It really is. So, Lita came down. I haven't seen Lita in quite some time. Ironically, if people would have recalled her more, they probably would have been spouting derogatory comments due to her time with Edge. And the winner for most Divalicious is Kelly Kelly for some strange reason, which then makes Beth Phoenix and Natalya come down. Beth slaps him and gets her Slammy back. Okay. We're now almost like an hour into what's going on with this, and I'm just sitting there going, The one that was really cool was when the Road Dogg came out. And the Road Dogg cut a pretty decent, PG sort of rap for Pipe Bomb of the Year, which of course would have to go to CM Punk because it was named after CM Punk. So of course he comes down and he has a loving tribute to Johnny Ace, or as we know, John Laurinaitis. And it was kind of neat to see, what John Laurinaitis kind of did like in the 70s and the 80s, with things like the Dynamic Dudes. That was actually really, really entertaining. And then Santino came down to do the moment of the year, which was funny because when Santino was like and I was like, alright. One of them, of course, was, I think that one also had CM Punk winning the title at Money in the Bank, which was a huge moment, and instead it goes to The Undertaker kicking out for the twos by Triple H WrestleMania. Which of course makes sense, but I'm sitting there thinking, man, why do I feel like the Slammys are mildly rigged? Because people seem to win these awards and then specifically come out and talk about their upcoming match at the pay-per-view. I don't know if the members of the Academy who votes for the Slammys, are working with the E to do these things or not, but it seemed like they really weren't legitimately voted on by the fans. Which kind of concerns me a little bit. But then H came down and cut a really solid promo about how he's going to pretty much dismantle Nash at their ladder match where there's a sledgehammer hanging and whoever gets the sledgehammer can legally use it in the match. I don't know if getting the sledgehammer ends the match, or if you can get the sledgehammer, once you get that you can use it, then you gotta score a pinfall. I'm entirely confused on the exact working of that match. Does it still require a pinfall, or is it just, I went to the top, I got the sledgehammer, your opponent can roll out of the ring, therefore you don't get that really great payoff for it, but it's going to be hard to have a PG payoff with a sledgehammer. Just saying, it's kind of confusing. Oh, let's roll back through, see if anything else really great happened. The Otunga Tony Atlas piece, the only thing that made it funny was, the guy was something Washington. He was the guy who was on, like, NXT and ECW, like, really towards the end. It was just Tony Atlas just laughed the whole time. It didn't really seem to just make a whole lot of sense. I mean, and it was like, And this was the social media exposure award, so whoever had the highest following on Twitter was going to win an award. It was just filler. I guess Mr. Hudson wanted to get on camera for a little while. And this actually comes down to what was bar none the match of the night. So it was one of the two matches that actually had something happen. This was a match between Daniel Bryan, Dolph Ziggler, Cody Rhodes, and Zack Ryder. This match had decent amounts of, of the rest spots, of people being tossed down the ring, the two on ones, the 2-on-2s. Some pretty decent spots on this one. Of course, it ended with the finisher fest, and Ziggler picking up the win, and of course the winner of the Slammy going to Ryder, Ryder getting a zigzag. Really, really solid match. And then Christian came out for the Game Changer of the Year, which had moments like, when Kevin Nash came down and beat up CM Punk after his match at SummerSlam, which led to Alberto Del Rio becoming the champion. The revelation of The Rock taking on John Cena, or the retirement of Edge. Ironically, the true legitimate game changer is the retirement of Edge. Because when Edge retired, that really changed the landscape of both shows. That is the true game changer. Instead, it of course had to be Cena and The Rock. Cena comes down, cuts his little spiel, and then introduces The Rock, who's not there. And then talks with The Rock via satellite, who is also not there. And look, it's kind of like a... Yeah, we all kind of knew that. I was really, really hoping that John Cena would have taken off his Rise Above Hate shirt and would have had his, I Bring It via satellite shirt on, but it just really didn't, it's going to be this huge match, and when it's done, that's it. Rock's probably not going to come back and do other matches. Rock has had a total of one actual match so far since coming back before WrestleMania. I mean, just what he has had exactly one match. I have to scroll through to make sure I'm not skipping any sort of bizarre randomness. Okay, now we get to our second, our double main event. Randall and CM Punk versus Miz and Del Rio. Pretty decent match. This is actually your second actual match of the night. As crazy as that sounds. And of course you've got, 4 solid workers. You had 2 matches that both had 4 solid workers in it. Great back and forth. Barrett got involved to help take out Orton, since they've got a tables match coming up at TLC, which then led to CM Punk being defeated by Miz, then getting assaulted by Del Rio, Miz on a ladder. Good stuff, great, perfect way to help build that matchup. And then they did the A-lister of the year, as I tried to figure out A-lister of the year. You mean like the guest hosts? Totally, I was pulling for the Muppets. That moment between Meeker and Sheamus is just gold. And of course it goes to Snooki, who wasn't there, but she brought it via satellite. Snooki, who was also undefeated at WrestleMania. That's right. The Snooki streak is alive and well. 1-0. At least she did give a shout out to Zack Ryder. Maybe the Snooki rub will help Zack Ryder pick up a victory and become U.S. champ at TLC. Then Sheamus took on Jinder Mahal. And I'm going to give first the whole match. Sheamus comes down and gets in the ring. Jinder Mahal gets on the mic and starts, you know, Baba Ganoush, Baba Ganoush, Baba Ganoush. You know, whatever it is, whatever language he's speaking, whether it's probably Persian or Farsi or whatever non-English language he's speaking to try to build cheap heat for a character that even I had to go. He was with the great Khali. Was he like blackmailing him by saying he would divorce his sister? Some sort of weird, stupid angle like that. Kept on thinking, I wonder what Muhammad Hassan is doing right now. A guy who developed legitimate heat. Or even Davari. Not a guy who developed legitimate heat, but Jinder Mahal gets into the ring, bro kick, the match doesn't even start. So we're keeping score at home. There's been 4 kind of matches. You had a match end in DQ, a match not happen. Then you had a fatal 4-way and a tag match. Okay. So 3-hour Raw. And you get 2 actual matches. And this is your go-home Raw before you go into the last pay-per-view of the year. And you wonder why your buy rates are down. It's really actually, you sit back and you wonder, why are the buy rates down? You had almost no wrestling this whole night. It was pretty people walking to a mic, cutting a little spiel, and then that was it. Now you're the superstar of the year. I think the only one actually legitimately voted on by the fans. And who wins it? CM Punk. That's right. CM Punk has had an absolutely ridiculous year. From the Straight Society going away, to him becoming the leader of the New Nexus, to Randy Orton destroying all the members of the New Nexus, to the feud he had with Randall Orton going into WrestleMania, from, you know, CM Punk cutting out on his own, getting free range on the mic, talking about ice cream bars, talking about Colt Cabana and how great it is to do awesome things in the ring, to what he did at Money in the Bank, to what he did again at SummerSlam when he defeated John Cena, to what he did when he defeated Alberto Del Rio Tap to become a 2-time WWE champion in the course of a year, to being probably one of the most entertaining people that we've seen in the E in the past 5 years. Of course he was injured, so John Laurinaitis came out and accepted the award on his behalf. And they get to see the big main event, John Cena versus Mark Henry. 2 awesome parts in this match. One, they called him, I think it was Zach Henry, or Mark Ryder. And then we start thinking about the amalgam you could do of that, and how the Rough Rider and the Chocolate Slide, one of Mark Henry's previous moves when he was a face, how that amalgam would be the Chocolate Rider, the Rough Slide, or Rough Chocolate Slide Rider. And it just sounds so awesome. And then we start thinking of, you know, creative wrestlers you could do. That's how good this match was. We started thinking about random creative wrestlers that you could do by taking Mark Henry's size and giving him the moveset of Zack Ryder. This match had a whole lot of nothing, which is kind of sad. And then out of nowhere, the lights go out and Kane returns? Kane comes down with a new mask, like a full front face metal mask. And it looks really weird, like he's Darth Kane. And then he lays out Cena, takes that mask off, and he now has on, again, like the 3/4 mask that he had before, but it's not red and black. It's predominantly red. His new costume looks really bizarre. He still has the leg flame like he used to have, but it's primarily black with like red stitching. It seemed kind of weird, and Raw goes off the air with Kane having returned. Kind of a confusing way to go off the air, and of course I'm still waiting for the debut of Brodus Clay. Maybe they'll have the day after Christmas. So all in all, you know, for a 3-hour Raw, you had a DQ, a no contest, and a no contest. And then a pretty solid tag match and a pretty good fatal 4-way. That's horrible. You're trying to tell me that they could not have squeezed in what, like a Divas match? Was Kofi Kingston back? Could Evan and Bourne have had a match? What Mason Ryan? Wouldn't you have had enough people to have done something? Just really like something, you know, just another match thrown in there. Literally, man, you could have picked any two guys into the Super Show. You have access to all sides of the rosters. They couldn't throw in 1, 2 other matches, or at least out of the 5 matches they have at least 3 of them have actual endings. I mean, 2 matches actually had endings. The rest of them were all just kind of throwaways. It just came out really bizarre. That's not what you do when you're going into the last pay-per-view of the year. Just period.